Well, welcome back to the farmhouse build of Cottage Farmstead. I'm Rebecca. This is my husband Nathan. And since we passed our rough-in inspection, we are able to move on to the next steps, and some of those next steps involve insulation. It's icky business, but so far he's enjoying it. I haven't been here a whole lot this week, and he's gotten a lot done, which I'm very thankful for, so I don't have to get all itchy and scratchy with it.
It's been one of those things that I've just been itching to get into it. And especially since it's an activity, I've done a good bit of insulation growing up with my dad and my grandfather, so I had great confidence going into it that I could do it well. We found a great deal on the insulation, actually from our roofer who had a brother who does commercial jobs. So we were able to get it for about a quarter of the price of what it would be otherwise. One of the challenging things with that is all the insulation for our wall cavities ended up being unfaced.
There's two types of insulation when it comes to fiberglass. There is faced and unfaced. So unfaced doesn't have the paper on it, and the faced, which we have above us here, has paper on it. So one of the things that we've been trying to figure out is what are we going to do as a vapor barrier. We were looking online and we had heard, craft paper works. And we also had seen a lot of people using plastic, but we live in a very humid climate, and almost everybody recommending the plastic lived in like New England and where they don't even use like a whole lot of air conditioning. So we were very concerned about the moisture content. One of the nice things out here in Anderson County is the inspectors are pretty friendly. So they were like, whenever you have a question, just give us a call. So Farmer Nathan called the inspector.
And after calling him, explaining our situation, he suggested using Tyvek. He said, basically, it keeps the water out, but allows breathability, because you don't want to trap any moisture. Whenever you have a cavity like a wall, you have the warm or cool air, depending on the time of year, contrasting with either the cold or warm air from outside. So when you have a contrasting temperature, that water has a chance of condensing and forming water droplets, which does not do well with fiberglass or the health of the house.
Like I said, Farmer Nathan's been at it all week in the evenings. I'm living in the next county over and working in the next county over, so I'm not here as often. But he's been going at it. Look at this. Look at all this insulation. He's gone all the way around. Hello! All the way around this room. And he's just started doing, let's see if I can do this, the ceiling up there. That up there is going to be our attic area or ballroom area, and we wanted to soundproof it because we know that we're probably gonna have a hard floor up there and we don't want to hear it that much. And it's also going to be an unfinished attic space for a while, so we figured some insulation up there would be very helpful for air conditioning and heat.
So one of the issues we were running into is some of our windows were still leaking. Even with having the Tyvek and taping around the whole flange of the window, water was still getting in. What we think it is, and we are starting to fix it, is we ended up taping the Tyvek to the surface of the window flange. Well, if any moisture gets through the Tyvek up above, it runs down behind the Tyvek, and since we taped over the flange, it ends up running behind it actually, which enables it to get in. So right now, we have not done the insulation on either side of each window bay or below it, because once again, moisture is an enemy of fiberglass. So until we get that fixed, and then also having the siding on, which will provide another physical barrier, we're just going to hold our breath and take a breather on this side of the house while we continue to finish the insulation for the main living area, and also sheetrock. The siding company continues to delay their arrival here. So we are now about a week and 2 days out from the estimated time that they begin. Challenging things, they've been saying, oh, it'll be 2 weeks, it'll be 2 weeks, it'll be 2 weeks for the past month. So we really don't know. So that's one reason why we just want to make sure we have that covering on the house before we do anything with the fiberglass or sheetrock on this side of the house.
The reason we're able to do the other side of the main living area of the house is because we have two front porches, so those are protected sides. And then the other side has no leaks in it, so the windows better, proper, or the wind doesn't just blow that direction. So we are going to continue over there. We're going to Tyvek, sheetrock, mud, paint, and get that side finished while we wait on the siders. And once the siders are done, we can come over to this side and finish this other half of the house. So it allows us to continue having progress while we wait. So when we say the windows are leaking, it's not like we're having a huge, giant, stream of water pouring in. What's happening is the plywood, the OSB along the windowsill is getting damp when we have high wind and rain, which is very common with thunderstorms in the summer. And so this part is getting wet, and every now and then, like, you'll see a little bit of water here. We'll have a drip or two on the floor, but for the most part, it's just isolated to just like the windowsill. So like he was saying, with the water getting trapped in the Tyvek, and then it lands here, it just kind of seeps in. It's not just like a rush of water coming in. That's why we're comfortable putting fiberglass one bay over, because it never gets wet in here. So this gives us a buffer, and then it shouldn't even ever get wet in there.
I try to do as much down and off the ladder to begin with. That way when I get up on the ladder, I can do multiple pieces at the same time. So wherever you have a wire behind the insulation, you don't want to just push that into the cavity, because the way fiberglass works is it's collecting a lot of air molecules in between the fibers, and if you compress it, it doesn't hold as much air, and air is a good resistant of the changing and fluctuation of temperature. So what I'd like to do is actually compress it a little bit up against the wire, and it ends up leaving a mark on the back side of the fiberglass right here. Then I'd take our fiberglass knife, just score that a couple of times. You don't want to cut it all the way through, just enough so that the wire will fit inside of the insulation. That ends up making a pretty nice airtight seal, just in terms of not having any air pockets. So I'll do the same thing here. That's it.
So like we were mentioning earlier when we were downstairs, this is our quote-unquote ballroom, is what we've been calling it. It has actually taller ceilings than even downstairs. This has like 10-foot ceilings at the peak. We are not fully finishing this space for moving in. We had it on our floor plan as like unfinished attic, and then as we had to redo some of the roof and trusses and all that stuff earlier on in the framing process, we ended up with a much bigger room up here, but we hadn't budgeted to fully finish it. So what we're doing is we are putting down Advantech on the floor to give the rigidity that we need for putting drywall down on the ceiling below. And then we're putting insulation all along the floor in here, since this is going to be the attic for a while. And then later on, we're going to add a little bit more insulation in the ceiling so that we can condition the space so that we can use it for other things. We're thinking it's probably going to end up being like our game room, playroom, part storage, craft area. And one of the things that we thought of right before we started putting all the insulation in is adding some plumbing for potentially putting a kitchenette type sink up here. So they have put over in the corner over there, I don't know if you can see the blue pipe and the red pipe, and we also put a drain line in the wall over there that goes just down to the basement. We just have the pipes there in the wall, not connected to anything yet. But in the future, if we do want to put, say, like a little mini fridge and a tiny sink up here for if like this is like an arts and craft room, we'll be able to wash like paintbrushes and stuff up here without having to go downstairs. And it's those little touches that it's just good to be thinking ahead when you're building for future-proofing certain aspects, because it's a whole lot cheaper and easier and less messy to just throw some extra pipe in the wall. Even if we never use it, it's not going to be in our way, but if, you know, in 15, 20 years we do want a sink up here, it's available and much easier and cheaper to install. So you can see Farmer Nathan has all the protective gear on because he's the one doing the handling a lot of stuff, because he claims it's not as itchy as he remembers it being. So I'll let him go along with that fallacy because I'm itching just standing up here being near it. So
It's not that bad.
don't believe him. Don't believe him. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of some of the progress that has been made here over the course of the week. And hopefully maybe next weekend we start hanging a little bit of drywall. Catch you next time.